study of Jonas influenced Dostoevsky, who was a passionate reader of Dickens's novels. These three books are linked by a vein of richly comic humour that runs throughout the novel. It contains perhaps Dickens's most creative comedy so far. Even the minor characters are memorable, such as Mrs. Todgers and her eternal struggle with the gravy. But the greatest creations are Pecksniff, a comic study of unctuous hypocrisy, and that wildly eccentric comic turn, Mrs. Gamp, a professional nurse, midwife, and layer out of the dead. Pecksniff cites the Bible for his own purposes to shield his devious plan of self-aggrandizement, hiding his true nature behind mock humility. "Bless you for hating me," he says to old Martin. Pecksniff's hypocrisy is transparent to the reader, and therein lies the humour. Sarah Gamp is Dickens's greatest comic creation. She appealed to Dickens's sense of theatre, and her rambling monologues, peppered with distorted and invented words, are in danger at times of upstaging the rest of the novel. But beneath Gamp's eccentricity lies a serious purpose on Dickens's part: to expose the incompetence, not to say danger, of unregulated private nurses. It was Florence Nightingale's reforms and innovations that eventually established a publicly funded profession. When Martin Chuzzlewit was published in novel form in 1844, a critic wrote that it was just now the rage to decry Dickens. But the more discerning critics, however, saw it as an advance in Dickens's literary style. The loose, episodic format of his earlier novels was developing into a more cohesive structure, with a strong moral purpose or theme expressed through sublime humour. Dickens himself said, "I feel my power now more than I ever did." Pecksniff and his daughters journey to London.
When Mr. Pecksniff and the two young ladies got into the heavy coach at the end of the lane, they found it empty, which was a great comfort, particularly as the outside was quite full and the passengers looked very frosty. For as Mr. Pecksniff justly observed, when he and his daughters had burrowed their feet deep in the straw, wrapped themselves to the chin and pulled up both windows, it is always satisfactory to feel in keen weather that many other people are not as warm as you are. And this, he said, was quite natural and a very beautiful arrangement, not confined to coaches but extending itself into many social ramifications. For, he observed, if everyone were warm and well fed, we should lose the satisfaction of admiring the fortitude with which certain conditions of men bear cold and hunger. And if we were no better off than anybody else, what would become of our sense of gratitude, which, said Mr. Pecksniff, with tears in his eyes as he shook his fist at a beggar who wanted to get up behind, is one of the holiest feelings of our common nature. His children heard with becoming reverence these moral precepts from the lips of their father, and signified their acquiescence in the same by smiles. That he might the better feed and cherish that sacred flame of gratitude in his breast, Mr. Pecksniff remarked that he would trouble his eldest daughter, even in this early stage of their journey, for the brandy bottle. And from the narrow neck of that stone vessel he imbibed a copious refreshment. "What are we," said Mr. Pecksniff, "but coaches? Some of us are slow coaches." "Goodness, Pa!" cried Charity. "Some of us, I say," resumed her parent with increased emphasis, "are slow coaches. Some of us are fast coaches. Our passions are the horses, and rampant animals too." "Really, Pa!" cried both the daughters at once. "How very unpleasant!" "And rampant animals too," repeated Mr. Pecksniff with so much determination that he may be said to have exhibited, at the moment, a sort of moral rampancy himself. "And virtue is the drag. We start from the mother's arms, and we run to the dust shovel." When he had said this, Mr. Pecksniff, being exhausted, took some further refreshment. When he had done that, he corked the bottle tight with the air of a man who had effectually corked the subject also, and went to sleep for 3 stages.
Pecksniff and his daughters at Mrs. Todgers.
M. Todgers's commercial boarding-house was a house of that sort which is likely to be dark at any time.